Walking outside after a hurricane and seeing your pool cage shredded is a gut punch. It looks like your entire backyard has been destroyed. The immediate reaction for most homeowners is to pick up the phone and call their insurance agent to report the damage. What your agent might not tell you is that the moment you make that call, it triggers an official claim on your property's CLU report, even if they haven't seen a single photo of the damage. In Florida, pool cages fall under a separate coverage category, and they are subject to a 2% hurricane deductible. That percentage isn't based on the cost of the cage. It is calculated against the total insured value of your entire house. Reaching out to your insurance company before you understand the math means you risk logging a permanent penalty on your claims record, often without receiving a single dollar in return. This diagram shows two paths. Path A is the emotional reaction, calling immediately, which frequently leads to a swift denial. Path B is performing a forensic inspection first. Delaying cleanup to gather structural evidence is the only way to maintain financial leverage with your adjuster. Looking out at a patio where every single screen panel has been ripped away feels like a total catastrophic loss. Synthetic mesh screens act exactly like the canvas sails on a ship. When a hurricane hits, they catch massive amounts of aerodynamic wind stress, transferring all that kinetic energy straight into the aluminum frame. This chart from Florida Engineering shows the structural stress reduction from screen removal, illustrating how taking screens out impacts the skeleton. Notice the data on the right. For a standard enclosure, losing the mesh reduces total wind-induced stress on the frame by 60. Shedding those screens might be the exact reason your expensive aluminum superstructure is still standing, instead of twisting and collapsing into your pool. Now that you know the screen loss is mostly cosmetic, your inspection needs to shift to the actual structural skeleton. Start right at the concrete deck foundation. Walk the entire perimeter of the cage. Reach down and physically tug on the base of every vertical aluminum column. You are checking for mechanical detachment. If a steel anchor bolt spins freely, or if you see hairline starburst cracks radiating through the concrete deck, the lateral shear force of the wind has snapped the connection. Pay close attention to any orange rust leaching out around those bolts. Insurance adjusters look for rust bleeds to classify the failure as long-term maintenance neglect, rather than acute storm damage. Look up along the length of the vertical uprights. If the aluminum is permanently bowed, leaning, or twisted, the internal yield limit of the metal has been breached. Finding these base and column failures proves the cage is mechanically detached, creating a severe safety hazard that requires a full structural replacement. Next, look at the beam-to-host connection highlighted here at the roofline. This is where the horizontal aluminum beam attaches directly to your home's structure. Check the connection angles closely. If they're bent out of shape, the connection has suffered severe plastic deformation. The structural integrity of the entire cage relies on that host connection holding firm. If the metal has yielded and separated from the house, the cage's geometry is permanently unstable, making it a total loss. Once you identify these structural failures, you must document them before you touch a single piece of debris. Do not move fallen branches or sweep up sheared bolts. Act like a forensic investigator. Start with wide-angle shots from all four extreme corners of your property line to establish the massive scale of the damage. Move in closer. For every failure point you found, take a mid-range shot from 6 to 8 feet away for context, immediately followed by an extreme macro close-up of the specific structural fractures. Open your phone's camera settings and make absolutely sure your GPS location services and chronological timestamps are explicitly enabled. Adjusters require chronological proof that the severe damage aligns perfectly with the meteorological timeline of the storm. Untouched, strictly time-stamped evidence is the only legal way to separate acute hurricane damage from pre-existing wear and tear. Now, let's look at your policy. Pool cages typically fall under Coverage B for other structures, and many Florida policies heavily restrict or explicitly exclude them unless you purchased a specific endorsement. Even if you are covered, state law mandates a hurricane deductible. The brutal reality of a standard 2% deductible is that it is calculated against the total replacement value of your main dwelling, not the $20,000 pool cage. Let's examine this comparison matrix to see how the math plays out. It compares a typical deductible against different repair scenarios. Take a home insured for $500,000. A 2% deductible means your out-of-pocket responsibility is $10,000. If you only lost your screen mesh, replacing it will cost roughly $4,500. Filing a claim here is mathematically irrational. You'll pay out of pocket, get zero from insurance, and still take a hit on your claims record. However, if your forensic inspection revealed catastrophic frame and anchor failure, a fully permitted rebuild will cost between $15,000 and $30,000. This is the scenario where filing a claim finally crosses that massive deductible threshold and makes financial sense. Executing the forensic inspection forces you to separate a cosmetic rescreening from a total structural loss, protecting you from permanently penalizing your insurance record over a repair you'll have to pay for yourself anyway. If your cage suffered unrepairable structural failure, your next step is securing a fully permitted rebuild. Screen Factory Florida engineers premium enclosures designed to withstand the realities of coastal weather. Their structures are designed strictly to the 2023 Florida Building Code. They utilize thick, highly rigid extruded aluminum, including massive 6x6 beams, and offer exact color matching in standard white and bronze. Selecting a code-compliant permitted rebuild restores the aesthetics of your patio and guarantees strict compliance with Florida's drowning prevention safety statutes. Skip the door-to-door salespeople and base your recovery on solid math. Use the free consultation link in the description to start a compliant, code-approved rebuild today.